To have the sitting attorney general go on, and I'm gonna call it faux news. I know some of y'all love it, but it's fake to me. To have her go on Fox News and to then decide that she wanted to send a threat to me, it was wrong. Because here it is, she is the highest law enforcement agent in this country, and people are watching and they are consuming this information and they are believing that simply because I decided that I wanted to exercise my right to free speech, which I am not abridged from doing, that she then wanted to then politicize something that should not be politicized. I don't like Elon Musk. I'm gonna say it 50,000 times. I don't like him. I don't like that he going out there and he firing people. I think that he's a crook because somehow the rest of us can't sit around and get whatever federal contracts we want. The rest of us can't sit around and get law enforcement and get them somehow ordained as federal law enforcement to protect him. The rest of us can't get our dealerships protected by the federal government. That is somebody that is operating above the law.
You want to talk about hypocrisy? Let's talk about how Republicans, led by their media darlings and backed by billionaire elites, are using the justice system not as a shield for the people, but as a weapon against anyone who dares to speak truth to power. Welcome back to the channel, everyone. If you care about democracy, fairness, and real accountability in this country, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe right now. Hit that notification bell, because what we're about to break down tonight goes right to the heart of what's wrong with American politics and how we can fix it. Now, let's get into it.
Let me tell you, one of the things that the chairman and I actually agree upon, we don't agree on a lot, is that we both know that there has been a sharp incline as it relates to threats upon our lives. Regardless of what side of the aisle you sit on, we both know and agree that as sitting members of Congress, we both are enduring more death threats than anybody should in this country. And I believe that it is because of the divisive rhetoric and it is because of the selective enforcement of things. And so when we have, and I'm gonna be clear because I had remarks and I'm going a whole other way. To have the sitting attorney general go on, and I'm gonna call it faux news. I know some of y'all love it, but it's fake to me. To have her go on Fox News and to then decide that she wanted to send a threat to me, it was wrong. Because here it is, she is the highest law enforcement agent in this country, and people are watching and they are consuming this information and they are believing that simply because I decided that I wanted to exercise my right to free speech, which I am not abridged from doing, that she then wanted to then politicize something that should not be politicized. I don't like Elon Musk. I'm gonna say it 50,000 times. I don't like him. I don't like that he going out there and he firing people. I think that he's a crook because somehow the rest of us can't sit around and get whatever federal contracts we want. The rest of us can't sit around and get law enforcement and get them somehow ordained as federal law enforcement to protect him. The rest of us can't get our dealerships protected by the federal government. That is somebody that is operating above the law. For whatever reason, just because he has a lot of money, more money than everybody else. And yes, I am happy to see that on my birthday, which is what I said, there were peaceful protests around this world against him because he is a problem. And so you never should have somebody that is sitting that high and is going to sit up here and threaten a sitting member of Congress when she knew good and well, if she watched the entire thing, that I specifically told protesters to make sure you consult with lawyers, just like I've told protesters over and over and over in the history of me advising people to go out and exercise their constitutional right. The fact that there are other sitting members that have received letters of threat from this new DOJ tells me that they are about retribution and they are not about following the law. The reason that our party, or I won't even say our party, our country is torn apart is because we can't even agree on right versus wrong. This should not be left versus right. The only thing that we're asking is that we have law enforcement that will show up when there is an actual crime. If somebody calls and says, hey, I need you to investigate this cyber crime, or I need you to investigate this child pornography, or I need you to investigate this robbery, then we want somebody to show up, and we don't want them to look at us and act as if just because I'm black or because I'm woman that I am not worthy of having that case investigated, because we have an administration that is continuously railing against diversity, equity, and inclusion, or we don't need people that show up that feel like diversity should not be valued. That is why we should have somebody that may show up and looks like me. The final thing that I'll say, because you've been gracious, is this. When I first became a public defender, I had no criminal defense experience. And I walked in and I told my boss, Charlie, I said, listen, you should hire me. He said, why? I said, because I'm black. Charlie looked at me like I was crazy. And I said, let me tell you something. When I walk in, I'm going to walk in with a level of rapport and understanding that maybe some of my other colleagues will not. Charlie offered me my job, and I worked my butt off, and I worked really, really hard for all of my clients, not just those that look like me. And that is what it looks like to serve. Thank you.
Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett's response to former AG Pam Bondi's comments during her Fox News appearance is a powerful lesson in what accountability in government should look like. At the heart of Crockett's argument is a principle that often gets lost in partisan squabbles. No one, no matter how high-ranking, is above the law. She reminds viewers that our democracy functions through a careful balance of powers. Congress makes the laws, the executive branch enforces them, and the judiciary interprets them. When a former attorney general appears to threaten a sitting member of Congress, it isn't just a personal attack. It's a direct challenge to the system of checks and balances that protects every American. Crockett goes beyond the immediate confrontation. She frames the discussion around fairness, trust, and equal protection under the law. She points out that threats and intimidation from officials fuel a growing lack of trust in government agencies. When enforcement and accountability are selective, when some are protected because of wealth or status, while others face consequences for exercising their constitutional rights, it undermines the very notion of justice. This is why she brings up Elon Musk as an example of individuals who appear to operate above the law, benefiting from protections that ordinary Americans or even elected officials cannot access. It's not about political bias. It's about transparency, fairness, and integrity. What makes her argument especially compelling is how she humanizes it. Crockett shares her own story as a public defender. Despite lacking experience in criminal defense, she leveraged her perspective and empathy to serve every client with dedication, understanding that representation is not just about who you are, but about fighting for everyone's rights. This personal example illustrates the value of diversity and lived experience in public service. Crockett uses it to show that government and law enforcement must reflect the communities they serve, and that equitable representation is not just symbolic, it is essential for the proper functioning of justice and policy. She also tackles a bigger issue, the misuse of law enforcement authority for political purposes. Crockett stresses that the role of federal agencies should be to protect citizens, investigate crimes, and enforce laws impartially. When threats come from the top, and when officials weaponize their authority against political opponents, it erodes trust and puts ordinary people at risk. Her point is a lesson for all Americans. The health of democracy depends not on party allegiance, but on adherence to principle, accountability, and the consistent application of law. Finally, Crockett ties this all together with a message about the need for integrity in leadership. She makes it clear that the people deserve officials who follow the law, who value transparency, and who serve the public's interest above personal or political gain. Her speech reminds viewers that the fight for justice isn't just legislative. It's about demanding ethical leadership, holding power to account, and ensuring that government truly serves everyone equally. Call to action. Understanding the mechanics of government, the limits of authority, and the real impact of threats or abuses of power is vital for every citizen. If you believe in holding leaders accountable, protecting fairness, and demanding justice for all, share this video, comment with your thoughts, and help amplify this conversation. Democracy only works when people stay informed, engaged, and willing to stand up for right versus wrong.
Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett just did what too few in Washington have the courage to do. She called out corruption, intimidation, and the selective enforcement of justice by those who pretend to defend law and order. And this time, she wasn't just calling out anyone. She was responding to none other than former Attorney General Pam Bondi, who went on Fox News to send what Crockett rightly interpreted as a threat. Let's be clear about how outrageous that is. The Attorney General, the highest law enforcement officer in the country, is supposed to uphold the law without bias, without politics, and without vendetta. Yet Bondi used her national platform not to defend the rule of law, but to attack a sitting member of Congress for exercising her constitutional right to free speech. That's not just unprofessional, it's dangerous. It normalizes the idea that disagreement deserves punishment. It reinforces a message that anyone who challenges Republican power or their billionaire backers can be targeted. And Crockett hit back hard, as she should have. She pointed out that threats against lawmakers on both sides of the aisle have skyrocketed, fueled by the toxic rhetoric we keep hearing from right-wing media and political leaders. But she didn't stop there. She took this moment to expose a larger pattern that we, as progressives, have been warning about for years: the way Republicans use institutions of justice selectively, depending on who's being judged. If you're wealthy, if you're connected, or if you're aligned with conservative power, suddenly the law bends. But if you're an ordinary citizen, a protester, or, God forbid, a progressive woman of color in Congress, you become a target. And that's why Crockett brought up Elon Musk. She called him out unapologetically as someone operating above the law. Think about that. Musk can fire thousands of workers, allegedly manipulate platforms of communication, and somehow still enjoy the protection of government agencies as if he's a public institution himself. Meanwhile, regular Americans can't get federal protection for their businesses, their communities, or their civil rights. Crockett's point is simple but powerful. Justice isn't supposed to be for sale. Yet here we are, living in a system where wealth buys immunity and truth-tellers are threatened for speaking up. And let's not pretend this is just about one person or one party. Crockett nailed it when she said, "This isn't left versus right. This is right versus wrong." But make no mistake, the modern Republican Party has made its choice. They've chosen power over principle, silence over accountability, and threats over transparency. When someone like Pam Bondi uses her influence to publicly attack a sitting Congresswoman, she's not just attacking Jasmine Crockett. She's attacking every American who believes in free speech and equality under the law. Crockett's story as a former public defender drives this point home. She talked about being hired because she was Black, because she could connect with clients and communities that the system so often overlooks. That's what representation looks like. That's what inclusion means. It's not about tokenism or quotas. It's about making sure the people enforcing the law understand the people living under it. Contrast that with the Republican Party's open hostility toward diversity, equity, and inclusion. They've turned those words into political insults, all while ignoring what they actually represent: fairness, empathy, and the belief that every American deserves a voice. Crockett's experience in the justice system isn't just a personal story, it's a lesson. She worked hard, she fought for her clients, and she learned firsthand that justice works best when it reflects the people it serves. That's a principle Republicans use to understand. Now they mock it. Let's be honest here. The reason this confrontation matters isn't because it's another partisan shouting match. It's because it reveals how fragile democracy becomes when those in power treat accountability as a threat. If former attorneys general can threaten members of Congress, if billionaires can buy protection while working people can't get basic justice, then the rule of law doesn't exist. It's just a slogan for campaign ads and cable news talking points. And that's why voices like Jasmine Crockett's matter. She's not just defending herself. She's defending the idea that government must serve the people, not the powerful. She's demanding that law enforcement investigate crimes, not political enemies. She's asking for integrity, not intimidation. So, let's take something from her example. Let's stop treating politics as a game between left and right, and start treating it as a test of character between truth and corruption. Republicans can call themselves patriots all they want, But patriotism isn't about wrapping yourself in a flag while trampling on the Constitution. Patriotism is standing up for justice, for equality, and for the people this government is supposed to represent. And if you agree with that, if you believe democracy means holding the powerful accountable, then don't sit this one out. Like this video, comment your thoughts below, share it with your friends and family. And if you haven't already, subscribe to this channel for more real talk, real analysis, and real truth. Because what's happening right now isn't just political, it's moral. And it's going to take all of us, liberals, progressives, independents, anyone who still believes in decency, to stand up and say enough is enough. Pam Bondi tried to threaten a congresswoman. Jasmine Crockett turned that threat into a lesson for America. And that's exactly the kind of leadership we need more of. This is about the soul of our democracy. And as long as voices like hers keep speaking up, we still have a chance to save it. So stay informed, stay engaged, and stay loud, because silence is exactly what they want.